How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Down to Earth with Kristian Harloff. This is our Monday through Friday UAP news channel where we try to see the biggest thing everyone's talking about inside the UAP phenomenon and say, hey, we think you guys should know about it because the major news outlets ain't going to cover it. So we're trying to do our part. Now, there's a lot of people who are talking about this. There's a lot of people out there who are trying to spread the word about it. So we hope to be one of those places. And if you like the way we approach it, please consider subscribing. Trying to get to 25,000 subscribers. I think we can get there. I think you guys can help us out. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, that's the Down to Earth feed. The show that we do that's on my other channel, UAP Tuesdays, which a lot of you have found us. We've had great interviews there with whether it's Tim Gallaudet, Danny Sheehan, Avi Loeb, and Jesse Michaels. The list goes on and on and on. That audio can also be found on the Down to Feed podcast feed. But if you want to go over to that other channel, do that as well. Okay, so we've been talking a lot about David Grusch, over the last year, obviously, but the last couple of days here, we've been talking about him a lot because he was supposed to be part of this SALT the conference that he was going to address some things and claims and where people wondered if there's going to be more responses and all that. And then there was the follow-up that he's not going to appear after all. So obviously speculation is why. And then they said, well, scheduling. I don't buy that. And I don't think that you do either. Because, you don't book David Grusch and you don't say yes if you're David Grusch. If at that point, yeah, you can announce it, but you can't do it in your schedule. So something else is going on. I don't know what it is. And this is still a little foggy, too. So Lue Elizondo, who's also been in the news today all on his own, I think Stephen Greenstreet was the one who posted this about one of the reasons that Lue's book. I asked Danny Sheehan about this. Did I say Michael Sheehan before? I meant Danny Sheehan. But when I asked Danny Sheehan about it when he's on my show about Lue's book and when that was coming out, and there's really no real answer to it. And one of the reports is apparently, take it how you want, that a lot of people within the UAP circle that Lue runs with, again, this is supposedly. This is a report from Stephen Greenstreet that he said that, these people were like, hey, you can't put that in the book because that's what happened to me. That didn't happen to you. So you can't do that. And that's one of the delays. Again, I don't know how true that is. That's just something that came out there. And so Lue has been in the news as far as his book goes, but he's also in the news for this. This is something he posted, UAP James posted about Lue and says that Lue Elizondo says, senior Pentagon officials have considered criminal charges against David Grusch for going public about UFOs. To which Lue Elizondo's actual tweet was, I encourage everyone to read this article carefully. It succinctly illustrates the distrust of AARO's former leadership. I was told some time ago that senior elements in AARO were trying to have Dave prosecuted for going public, and the Pentagon wonders why people don't trust them. Trust works both ways. Okay, wow. Now, some people have been sending this to me going, he looks like he's been investigated now. I don't think that's the case. I think this is like, when it first came out, they were like, well, we can press charges for him for breaking what he was not supposed to talk about, right? Let's go after him. Let's figure a way to do it. And then they couldn't. That's what I think. Some people are like, well, that's why he's not talking, because he's been investigated. I don't know. I don't think so. Doesn't seem that way. I think this is more of a idea or more of a post from Lue to say, like, look, this just shows you, and we're going to go over this article from What the Hill wrote and how that relates to all this, because this is more to me going, hey, this is adding to the dishonesty and adding that they're trying to keep things secret. So when somebody comes out and starts talking, they want them to be afraid, because if they can go after Grusch and they can say, hey, listen, this guy wasn't supposed to talk and he did, and now we got him, he's going to jail, then people are going to go, I'm not being protected. I'm not opening my mouth. And that's obviously what they would try to do in that circumstance. But let's read this article from The Hill. The article reads, top senators believe that the U.S. secretly recovered UFOs. This is written today. Has the U.S. government secretly retrieved exotic craft of non-human origin? Newly declassified documents, along with extraordinary legislation, illustrate how two successive Democratic Senate majority leaders appear to believe so. Notably, Senator Chuck Schumer and the late Senator Harry Reid were not alone in their focus on UFOs. The Democratic heavyweights received critical support and encouragement from a bipartisan group of high-profile senators over the years, including former fighter pilot and famed astronaut John Glenn, Ted Stevens, who observed a UFO as a World War II pilot, Daniel Inouye, then chairman of the Senate Appropriations Committee on Defense, 2008 GOP presidential nominee Senator John McCain, Senate Intelligence Vice Chairman Marco Rubio, Kirsten Gillibrand, and Joe Lieberman. In late 2011, for example, the top scientists at the Department of Homeland Security met with Lieberman, then chairman of the Senate Homeland Security and the Governmental Affairs Committee, and Reid to discuss the establishment of an ultra-secret UFO program. As outlined in remarkable detail in newly released documents, the intent of the proposed program was to gain access to and inventory UFOs secretly under investigation in national laboratories, government organizations, and or contractors. From there, the program would engage in laboratory experimentation and scientific investigation to foster technology exploitation of the recovered materials. In short, Reid and Lieberman were advocating with some sense of urgency for the establishment of a formal UFO reverse engineering program. Wow. Startling as it might be, the notion that shadowy elements of the U.S. government or defense contractors secretly possess retrieved UFOs is treated as fact in the documents. Notably, the Reid and Lieberman-backed proposal include an oral history initiative to interview a pre-identified list of retired, previously highly placed government, armed services, contractor, and intelligence community individuals with knowledge of the location of advanced aerospace technology and biological sample. Even though the Department of Homeland Security's top scientist was advocating for the establishment of the UFO program and the very serious science involved with it, department leadership ultimately quashed the proposal in late 2011. More recently, Schumer and a bipartisan group of 5 other senators introduced extraordinary legislation alleging the existence of serendipitous legacy programs that retrieve and seek to reverse engineer UFOs of non-human origin. In eyebrow-raising comments on the Senate floor, Schumer said the government has gathered a great deal of information about UFOs over many decades, but has refused to share it with the American people. It goes on. Although a key House lawmaker successfully stripped the most extraordinary elements of the Schumer-led legislation, Schumer and the legislation's principal co-sponsor, Mike Rounds, vowed to keep working to change the status quo. The core elements of Schumer and Rounds' stunning legislation match the allegations of Air Force veteran and former intelligence official David Grusch, who testified under oath to the existence of UFO retrieval and reverse engineering efforts non-subject to congressional oversight. All right, so it goes on a little bit more and talks about like some of the history here, how Rubio had made a big push for it, and then later on talked about Sean Kirkpatrick and the press tour that he basically went on and had no effect really inside of Congress because Rounds talked about how they want to keep trying to push forward the amendment that was kind of gutted last year and push it forward this year, which then, again, then they start to talk a little bit more about the stories that we've covered here with Gillibrand and talking about how she's pushing for more hearings and her back and forth with Arrow, and then talked about Rubio and his comments about how the smart and educated people with high clearances and very important positions in our government, they're all working on this right now to try to make it kind of come to light. So this is when it kind of dives into it. They talk about Chris Mellon, who's the Department of Defense's former top civilian intelligence official, notes that many UFO whistleblowers do not trust the Pentagon process. They prefer to speak to Congress and the intelligence community's internal watchdog instead. This puts the Pentagon in a particularly awkward position. If the director of the UFO office was aware that the high-level officials alleging the existence of the unreported UFO programs refused to speak with him, how can he and his office credibly issue sweeping denials that such programs exist? Moreover, in response to the government's blanket denials regarding the possession of off-world technology, Mellon recently posted a 2020 exchange describing how a senior government official uncovered the management structure and security control systems of a UFO retrieval program. The official also claimed to have identified the gatekeeper controlling access to the Air Force's secret UFO efforts. In another fascinating twist, Kirkpatrick told Mellon that the Department of Justice is in possession of Grusch's whistleblower complaint alleging the existence of illegal UFO programs since it's part of a criminal investigation. Agency watchdogs like the ones that received Grusch's complaint typically involve the Justice Department when allegations of criminal activity are substantiated. Does this imply that UFO-related criminal charges could at some point be in offer? Holy moly. On so many different levels, holy moly. It does pose the question, right? As you're watching this, and I'm not asking you as a viewer to say what you believe in what this is and whether or not, you believe it or not, right? That whatever's flying in the sky, whatever you think it could be. But when you get those names in the top of that article, bipartisan, and all those different people back in 2011, because today I still see people saying, well, it's just because they're I don't know what their excuse they think it is, but they're just trying to get so and so in power. They're trying to do this, or they're trying to get more eyes on them, blah blah blah. This was a hidden kind of thing that they were trying to do. It wasn't out in the public. John McCain. I mean, like all these names that are out there that are working together to try to essentially do what Harry Reid ultimately did when it came to, he was a big part of that revelation in the 2017 New York Times article, obviously, and the fact that he not given the admittance that, yeah, this is a thing that we were doing, we were looking into, then it would all also been shot down. And it wouldn't have that article wouldn't have as much, that wouldn't have legs. So the fact that all of these people were trying to push for, as they say in this declassified article, reverse engineering. Well, what the hell are they reverse engineering then? If it's a classified document, and again, I push forward on this, and I know that you guys are tired of it, and I'm tired of saying it. But it is a mainstream media issue. In the same way that The Hill and News Nation, the same outlet, but the same way that they're covering this here. And good on them for doing it. The major news networks, the major news, like this declassified thing comes out, put one of your skeptics on it. Let the skeptic report on it. But talk about it. You can negate it and say, no, this is not a thing. This is not a thing. Here's why it is. But talk about it. Don't pretend like this declassified thing didn't come out. Talk about it. And have an expert go in and know what it actually meant was, but talk about it. Even the people who are debunking it out there, and even the report from Lue about Lue and his book, they're talking about it. They're saying, look, this is our point, and I think that this is what is being said and hearing, but they're talking about it. This is a thing that, you have this guy in Sean Kirkpatrick who was out there and saying these things that didn't exist and the evidence that they didn't find. Yet you have all these high-level officials who were saying the opposite and continuing on. After Harry Reid died, Schumer's still going after it. And from when I talked to various people, whether it was Steve Bassett, Sheehan, they all said the same thing. Schumer wasn't ready for Grusch either. It kind of, they had a plan as you looked from 2011 and what they're doing all the way up until they were still pushing forward with this bill. It just, when Grusch came out, that was like, okay, we just poured a lot of gasoline on this fire now, and it's moving at a speed we didn't even know it was. And that's why it says, like, in the report there with Chris Mellon about, of course, Arrow, if they are indeed trying to keep it hush-hush, and they've been able for so long to say, well, we can skate around that and not really give them that. And then you have this guy that was working in the program. You're like, hey, can we press charges on him? Like I said in the beginning, you press charges on him, you get him, you try to get criminal charges put against him, you get him to be quiet, and then other people are not going to do that. Like, we got to make an example of him. Of course, that's what they would try to do. Of course. But the question is it still something that's happening? Are they still trying to, silence him? Is that what's happening? Because where is he? As we've said many times over, where is he? Where's he been? Is that something that he's not able to talk now because of this? Is he being prosecuted? Is he under investigation? It's possible. It's absolutely possible. And if you go off of what Lue's tweet is and you read that article, doesn't surprise me, after it looks like, I just will say this. It doesn't look like Arrow. I mean, you guys are going to follow this up with no duh. It doesn't seem like Arrow should be trusted. Even though they're like, well, this is, people say, of course, we say this doesn't exist and everybody wants it to, so they hate our guts. And it's a fair argument to say. But there's just too much stink in the living room to not point and say, you farted. You know what I mean? I know. I was getting classy up until then, but it ain't a fair fight, I guess, at this point. So I don't know. It's going to say a lot, though, if it turns out, if they have enough to go after him, Grusch. And if they would want to, it would probably have to happen before they do another public hearing, because of all this stuff, this reverse engineering stuff. That seems to me, even though Luna said that the USOs were going to be the focus of the next hearing, it seems to me that they've got to get a lock on people who can prove the reverse engineering thing. That to me seems like what they're going to try to do. I don't know. All right, put a comment in there. Talk to me. What do you think about this? You think that that's what's happening with Grusch? Do you think that was just something that Lue was bringing forward and saying, no. We just know that that they had an investigation. They were trying to shut him up. They were trying to go in after him to put charges against him in this investigation for speaking up to see if he broke any protocol. But nothing's going to happen. Or are they still trying? Are they still trying to, maneuver in order to quiet him and quiet anybody else that talks? I'm very curious to hear what you think. As I say always, help us get to 25,000 subs. Why? Because we're trying to grow this thing. We want more people to see stories like this. We want more people to be aware of it. The conversation is always, I see it in every video, and you won't see me say, hey, if you don't believe in this stuff, don't comment. Hell no. Exact opposite. Have intelligent, have respectful conversations about it, but talk about it. And talk about it at other places too. If you're like, I don't know, I haven't seen enough to make me think any of this is legit. It's just other technology. It's balloons. It's whatever. It's just a bunch of people who were trying to get their names out there. Whatever your argument is, talk about it, because there's way less important stories that are featured on the news every damn night that could be replaced like that with a declassified document that comes out with all of these high-profile politicians trying to get the word out about a reverse engineering program. It's insane that this is in the top story everywhere right now. It's insane, and it stinks. Anyway, put your comments in there. Thanks for joining me here today, and I'll see you tomorrow.